That's what I would say with regards to that. And then obviously with the regards to the beta state, most people are in that state when they're obviously in uptime, they're awake, they're doing their everyday tasks. The challenge is most creative ideas happen in an altered state. So that's why people do at times use stuff like ayahuasca, meditation and stuff along those lines, because when the brain is busy, the ideas don't necessarily flow, but when you quiet it down, it's almost like the ideas hit against each other.
See, that's right.
Actually, you bring up a good point there, because something I probably want to throw in here, because I've had insomnia, and I've had insomnia for the best part of 30 years. I mean, Theo here suspects that I have sleep apnea, which I don't agree with.
But I was right about the other thing, wasn't I?
Well, I've got ADHD as well, so yeah, you were right. But then even the clocks rise twice a day. Even bread clocks rise twice a day. Not that I'm actually questioning that, but I don't believe I've got sleep apnea. But I've had it for about 30 years, and the last 4 weeks for me, as you well know, Theo, has been probably the worst I've had it in a long, long time. And it could be related to the fact that I've got ADHD, because I don't like to take as much medication as I would like, so I don't want to be taking it at night time as well. And I use it so I can actually focus, because my brain is very noisy. So I'd like to know, and this is probably where both of you come in for our audience, is how from an epigenetic point of view, Theo, because sleep deprivation is obviously going to impact you epigenetically, because that will impact your children, because my daughter probably suffers from sleep patterns as well. But from a hypnotherapy point of view, an epigenetic point of view, is there a solution when that can be resolved? Or is there a solution there?
I'm not sure I understand the question. So, you're saying that
I waffle there. So basically, if sleep or insomnia can be cured through hypnotherapy, for example, how would and that happens? How can that actually help in the epigenetic evolution further on down the line?
Okay. See, that
depends.
Make sense? Yes, it does. Well, it depends what's causing the insomnia. So, for instance, if it is sleep apnea, then that's something physical, and you're directly stressing your brain and more likely to cause depressions and things like that, as well as Alzheimer's.
But I don't suffer from depression, though.
I said more likely.
Okay, beg your pardon. Okay.
And it will certainly impact your mood. It might not make you clinically depressed. It stresses the brain enormously, very, very dangerously. So that's the first thing.
Thank you for that.
If your insomnia is being caused by something else, like ADHD, but ADHD is directly genetic. It's not even epigenetic. It's genetic. So that's a very high probability passed along. So I'm jumping in here for a reason. If someone's got ADHD and you pass it on to your children, or in dyslexia, for example, like that, because those are all forms of sort of what would be considered as a label as learning disabilities in this day and age. No,
I don't believe they are.
Learning disability is different.
Dyslexia is, for example. But if that's genetic that you pass down to your children, can you actually alter that? Because is it part of your DNA, or is it part of the epigenetic, which is the coil around the DNA, which is what we were talking about?
We see there are disorders of development, of which dyslexia is one of them, of which in fact ADHD is considered one of them. So those are genetic, but your attitudes can be epigenetic. So the assumption that you will always succeed is an epigenetic phenomenon, and indeed that's been shown to be very, very strong in determining success in life. So people who come from higher social classes, the reason why they succeed in life is because they expect to. And in my view, that comes from parenting and it comes from schooling. So the most important thing a private school can give an individual is the expectation to succeed, plus the contacts for the future.
Well, it's a case of if you actually want your kids to be successful, then you should become successful, because they do imprint themselves on you from the ages of 0 to 7. Although it's not, and this is just a guideline. Between 7 and 14, they model themselves on you. So if you're going to sit at home watch, and this is probably why I worry about future generations, because it's so easy to sit at home and just watch Netflix.
But if you ever look at kids, why are they so? Well, we mentioned this before. Kids are in theatre up until the age of 7. Theatre is fantasy world. It's incredibly creative, and that's why children play so much, and which is why they have such friends, and they enjoy their adventures. And then that stops. So essentially, after the age of 7, all we're doing is we're running the programs that were imprinted onto us up until the age of 7. And for us to rewrite those programs, we have to access our subconscious minds, or be put back into theta. So hypnosis puts you back into theta, or as you're falling asleep and you're going through theta, then listening to pre-recorded messages does that, or things like Buddhist-style meditation does that, Buddhist-style mindful meditation, or endless repetition will do that, or reprocessing techniques will do that, such as the techniques that I use. There's a common technique you can look up on the internet called Psych K, but as far as I can see, that's effectively what the reprocessing again.
So let me throw something in here actually. So we've got
so those are legal ways of reprocessing.
Yeah. So from the ages of 0 and 7, you've got the child is becoming is imprinted, or what you call it, the theta state, where they are very creative. But the thing is, they do imprint themselves on their parents as such.
Yes, they do.
And then between the ages of 7 and 14, they start modelling. But what happens is that from the ages of 5, you start introducing them into a life of conformity by putting them into the school system. So we don't really, we all like the mavericks of this world who rebel against the whole system. School has a way of actually making us conform to society. Because the thing is, and you can't blame the teachers, because they want to be able to control math.
But how will society survive? How will society survive if you don't conform to society?
You put an argument there. It does. But the thing is, you are also, do you not think that you're also teaching the children or asking them to conform to become workers? Because actually, let's face it, education was brought in to actually make people to become factory workers, or be white-collar factory workers, was it not?
No.
So education came into the Industrial Revolution, did it not?
Education was brought in to help people at the top end know how to manage the technology. That's why education was brought in. The vast masses were not being educated at all. They're being factory workers.
No, but when it came in for all, because let's face it, because what politicians wanted.
Well, that's just political correctness again, isn't it?
It is, but
lowering standards to get everyone to go to university.
What politicians wanted, though, was actually for people to go to school, go to university, in many cases, go and get a job, earn over 40 grand a year at the time, pay 40% tax, and work for the next 40 years.
Which is not possible, is it? So
not anymore, because as Alim said, we've come into this, he calls it the hustle generation, but other terminology could be called the gig generation and things like that. And this is one thing, before we run out of time, I probably wanted to cover, is that we are looking to put people in all these safe spaces right now, and I think it's the most dangerous thing we're looking to do. Because Aline brought it up earlier in terms of saying is that depending on what your environment is, you've got to teach your children to actually be able to perform in that environment. So in the animal kingdom, an animal will teach its young to be able to survive, and it teaches them the skills to be able to do that. And as we're coming into this market landscape right now, where it is about the big generation, there's no job certainty anymore, so we've got to learn to adapt and actually manage stress and manage anxiety in what is in effect an uncertain world, because the parents who are supposed to be teaching us haven't got a clue how to actually help us, because no one knows where all this world is going. I mean, we can talk about going into artificial intelligence and becoming cyborgs and whatever we did, and we've talked about this in the past, but we've got to learn to manage uncertainty. And the thing is, that's a niche in itself, by the way, Aline.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, we are working in an uncertain future, and if you're looking to move to that safe space all the time, could that be attributed to the rise of depression and the rise of anxiety and the rise in even suicide?
Well, it's all part of it, isn't it? Because people need certainty, they need structure. So if someone suffers from a level of anxiety and you reduce structure, it makes them even more anxious. So people always gravitate to structure to give themselves a sense of comfort and peace, which is why people like very boundaried situations such as religious rituals and things like that.
Yeah, but don't the people who thrive are people who can actually handle emotional intelligence at a much higher level?
No, but the average person isn't like that. And the average person doesn't want it and doesn't like it.
But it's a learnable skill for many people. Anyway, Aline, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
Before Theo and I dominate this conversation, because we could go on for hours here.
But it's an interesting one. It's just like, as you say, in the 80-20 rule, like the 20% will create 80% of the income, the top 10% will create 90%. But not everyone wants to be in that 20%. And it's the decision most people tend to be in the environment where they're actually happy where they are. Happy enough to say, it's not great, but the converse, the opposite would be doing something that's out of their comfort zone, maybe into that place of uncertainty, because we never really create something new from certainty, but from uncertainty. And that's a scary place for most people to be in. And I think that you were mentioning about regards to ADHD and dyslexia, and I'm dyslexic myself. And when I was at college and uni and stuff, they said it was a limitation, but what it is you use your right side of the brain a little bit more so.
Don't they reckon all geniuses are dyslexic?
A lot of it, yeah. It just means that you don't think logically, but if you think how the brain works, it's through association, not through logical...
Do you have ADHD as well?
I don't, not that I'm aware of.
No. He's like, you're quite laid back, aren't you?
Yeah.
Were you, as a child, were you hyperactive?
I had a lot of energy, but...
Do you get bored easily? Not really.
No,
Fair enough.
So yeah, but it's an interesting one because some people, obviously this isn't a medical perspective, but there's a guy called John DeMartini that helps people with regards to, and he says someone is only ADHD if it's outside of their highest values, and when it's in their highest values and they can see there's enough reasons why it's connecting with what their current mission and vision is for the future. This guy travels 360 days a year, 16, 18 hour days. He's an extreme.
Dr. John DeMartini, he's the creator of something called the breakthrough experience, actually, and he talks about the highest values. And I think I brought him up in conversation before. And I think he's got an interesting story, because I think he was a beach bum in Hawaii or something at one point. And then he just became a very learned scholar and actually read everything. And he does travel. In fact, he considers his home the actual world. Yeah. Because he doesn't actually have a stable place to actually work in.
But when you say highest value, the chemical basis of ADHD is where you don't have enough dopamine, which is your pleasure neurotransmitter. So someone who has ADHD, if they like something, their dopamine goes up, they can concentrate. In fact, they hyper-focus. And people with ADHD are usually very bright. They're brighter than the average. But that's why I call it an unexplained failure to thrive, because unless they're given something they're interested in, they just can't do it.
And you know, because Dr. John DeMartini, he's actually sort of admitted sometimes that he gets it wrong, and he does, because you can read one book and change your total opinion on something. Because I think he wrote a book on positivity many years ago, and actually he said on one of the audiobooks I read that he did. He actually said, the more positive I was attempting to be in, the more bipolar I was becoming. Because you can't be in that state every single time.
That's because you need to be self-aware. You need to be realistic. So there's no point in being unrealistically positive. What you need to do is be self-aware, and then what you do positively. Because if you do something negatively, you will set yourself up to fail.
That's true, and I accept that. But you know what, guys? I think we're going to leave it there. I think we need to have this conversation, and we'll probably expand on it in our next talk because we're going to be running in the same area. So we're going to welcome Aleem again because he's got a lot of interesting inputs to actually bring into this, and he's an incredibly smart guy. And I'd love to learn and hear more and what he actually has to say. So
Agreed.
Thank you very much for listening, guys, and we look forward to for you listening to our next podcast. If you've got any questions, please contact us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.